welcome back. Once again, we're in the woods, talking to a camera. Not part of the other video series, but wanted to get back into it because recently I've been flying a new drone, the DJI Mini 2, and I wanted to share my thoughts and give you some perspective of, in 2021, is it still worth it to go out and spend your hard-earned money on one of these drones? So let's get into it, starting off with some beautiful B-roll of flying. So what'd you think? All of that footage straight off the drone, no color correction, nothing edited about the footage with the exception of 2 time warps where I ramped up the footage in that waterfall shot as well as in the New York City reveal shot. Other than that, straight off the camera, nothing special done to it. Let me know what you think. Me personally, I think it's pretty good looking. For how small that drone is, it is amazing that it can capture footage like that. So now let's dig into, do I think that drone, the DJI Mini 2, is worth it in 2021? It's just getting on a year old. I've only had the drone for a couple of weeks, so not a long-term review or long-term thoughts, but in this year, is it worth buying? And I think to determine that value, we really need to talk about 3 specific people or customers. A beginner, a professional, and somebody who travels. Not necessarily for a living, but travels. So let's dive in first with the beginner. For a new flyer, intimidation is really a big driving force in why people have trouble or struggle getting into the hobby. That intimidation can be the financial side of it. It is definitely scary sending something that's $1,000 up into the air, possibly never to be seen again. There's the physical intimidation. A Mavic is not small. It makes a ton of noise, looks aggressive, feels aggressive. It can be intimidating, especially to somebody who's never flown drones before. And that's why I think the Mavic, DJI Mini 2 is such a revolution for a new flyer. It's $500, base, obviously $600 for the Fly More combo thing. It's small, fits in the palm of your hand, lightweight, so if it falls out of the sky, it's not going to kill somebody. It obviously will do some damage, but it doesn't have that same gravity that a bigger drone has. And it's also quiet. I fired this thing up. Obviously, when you take off, it's a little louder, but it is darn near silent. In an even mildly noisy environment, it just disappears. And that's, I think, such a big deal for a newer flyer who doesn't want to necessarily draw attention to themselves or have the spotlight put on them.
Take off. The home point has been updated. Please check it on the map.
It's why I think for a beginner flyer, the DJI Mini 2 is probably one of the best drones. For a new flyer, there is one kind of big con. There is really not a lot of obstacle avoidance sensors on the drone itself. So you can crash it into things. And while it does mean you have to be a little bit more careful, those sensors being removed really is what contributes to it being under 250 grams and at the size it's at. Obviously, eventually those features will come, and I do think for a newer user, those features are wonderfully helpful, but it still does maintain the return to home, auto landing, auto takeoff, and the normal suite of kind of base DJI features, which I think makes it a great drone to learn on. Doesn't quite have all the training wheels, but I think that's okay. So for a newer drone flyer, I think right now, the DJI Mini 2, perfect buy, and I would highly recommend. Next, let's jump straight to the professional user. For a professional flyer, professional photographer, get over that giant tree, this drone, I think 100% belongs in your camera case. When you want to get a dynamic shot, sometimes it's either not feasible, not practical, or you're just not comfortable flying something bigger like a Phantom or a Mavic into a real dangerous situation. The DJI Mini makes that easy, accessible, and also allows you to get dynamic footage in places that you just can't with those bigger drones. So I think for a pro user, there is no better additional tool to have in your arsenal than the DJI Mini 2. Obviously, the other big benefit is the weight. Being able to fly over people in certain situations, being able to fly in certain areas that you just can't with a bigger drone, makes this an absolute must. On top of all that, it's about the same size as your standard camera lens, so you could just tuck it in your camera bag, not even think about it, and it's ready whenever you are. I don't think there's much higher praise than that, because as every photographer knows, the best camera in the world is the one that you have on you. The one big drawback is you don't have the options for color. And when you're taking images or taking video, being able to shoot in RAW or D-Log or Cine-like, any of those flatter profiles for your imagery is essential, because pro users really want to get in and control the image. They want to color grade, they want to control the contrast, they want to control every little bit of it. The DJI Mini 2 just doesn't have those options. It's something that I think they could add in future updates. It's something they added to the Mavic series post-release. I do hope DJI will eventually add them to the drone, because if they do, there is nothing that I can't, there's no real con to having a DJI Mini 2 in your camera bag. That's why I think, again, for a pro user, it is the perfect additional tool to have in your quiver. It's not going to replace a primary drone for somebody who flies for cinema projects, but as a B camera, as an additional angle, as something just to toss up and grab some extra footage, perfect. And I think DJI really knocked it out of the park with this drone. Finally, let's get to kind of the most obvious one, travelers. Whether you're a travel content creator, a vlogger, whatever you do, if you travel of any kind, whether it's backpack, air travel, train travel, road trips, this is a phenomenal drone. First and most obvious, the physical size. When you get to your destination in Rome, Italy, Japan, London, Mexico, United States, wherever you're going, this thing will fit in your backpack, it'll fit in your purse, it'll even fit in your pocket if you got big enough pockets. It is incredibly flexible. Bringing it with you is not adding a ton of weight. It's comfortable to carry. And when you're traveling, that is so important. It takes up less space than a water bottle. And I think being able to have it with you, so you see that sunset, you want to grab that photo, grab that video, fly it through some cool gap to get your reveal shot for your vlog. This is the perfect tool. And I think for anybody who travels, whether it's for professional, or even for somebody who just likes to travel for fun, this is a real cool tool to have with you. And again, I cannot recommend it enough for people who travel. On top of that, it's weight. The obvious, it takes up less weight in your suitcase, easier to bring with you. That said, you do always, when you fly in an airplane, you must take LiPo batteries in your carry-on bag. Really the only rule when flying. But when you get to your destination, in Europe, for example, 250 grams, or the 249 gram takeoff weight of the Mini 2, technically doesn't qualify it as a drone. It is technically in the toy category. So it is exempt from a lot of regulation and a lot of the issues that make flying a Mavic 2 around Europe a lot more difficult. Last, a real big benefit for travel photographers and vloggers is that everything charges with USB-C. Unlike some of the other DJI drones, you can plug this into your battery pack in your backpack, charge it while you're walking to location. That way your drone and controller are ready to go whenever you are. It makes it super convenient. If you're backpacking, you have like a solar charger, plug it into the USB port, charge her up, you're good to go. And I think that convenience feature is indispensable when you're traveling, because you don't want to carry an extra power adapter. With my Mavic Pro, have to bring a power adapter everywhere I go. It's that one extra thing to carry, one extra thing to forget. Kind of annoying. This solves it. Plug the drone via USB, or even plug the multi-battery charger into USB-C, and you can charge everything. Excellent for travel. I think this is pretty much the best of the bunch. The same cons for professional users and amateur users of no obstacle avoidance. Obviously, when you're traveling in foreign areas and you haven't flown there before, that does create a little bit of extra, I don't know, you have to be a little bit more careful while you're flying. And then obviously the inability to grade your footage and really control what you're producing, a little bit of a downside, but the convenience features, I feel like far exceed any of those cons. So, those are my thoughts on the DJI Mini 2. I think it's one of the best drones that DJI has ever made. I think in 2021, if they do put out a Mini 3, I'm sure it'll be amazing. Pick this one up on sale. I think this one is a phenomenal entry in DJI's lineup. Whether you're pro, whether you're just getting into the hobby, especially if you're a travel content creator or just a travel enthusiast, definitely check it out. If you're looking for a drone, give it a consider. Definitely worth its price. And again, 2021, I think it's my favorite drone out right now. Let's see if the Mavic 3 will change that. With that said, thank you all for joining me. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you found this interesting. If you did, like the video. Please subscribe. If you have questions, hit me up on Instagram or Twitter or here on YouTube. I will try to answer everything I see. Thank you all so much for joining me. As always, peace. Bye.